Okay, so next up is Enigma. Hey everyone, I'm Klloo, and we're basically just going through the Blitz decks, right? The list of cards we've got available through the collection, the little box sets, because again, Japan gets them separately for whatever reason, right? I guess they didn't want people to, have to have a huge upfront cost and buy them as a package, but rather dabble. So I guess it somewhat makes sense. But, right, I'm just going to say straight away, we're 2 for 2. This is a fantastic weapon, right? So News is fantastic for its own reason. Cosmos is fantastic for its own reason. They're just wonderful cards to have in the game. They really just extend play all across the board, open up so many different packages you could run, and just, flavorful different archetypes. And remember, they are just weapons, right? They're not mystics. They're not tied specifically, other than the living legend system, to these classes, to these heroes. So yeah, Cosmos, Scroll of Ancestral Tapestry. During your turn, auras you control with ward are weapons with base attack equal to their ward, and once per turn attack for 1, no go again. But the clencher, right? Your auras with counters get go again. So I think this is the final product of Luminaris, right? The happy solution. I think it's fairly well tuned. Now, can it be busted? Sure. But you have to put in the effort, you have to put in the planning. And overall, it looks like we have the 3 sort of typings, right? Zen is probably going to be a very aggressive deck. Enigma, sort of middle ground, right? As you're building up your board state to attack and do damage, you're also generating ward, right? Which makes it powerful in itself. And then you have New, which they want as this slow, sneaky, well-crafted deck that turns your opponent's assets into your own. Now, I've given my spiel about what I'm going to run with that, right? But between this and Mistveil, fantastic weapons across the board. The big thing with Cosmos, though, is Shimmers of Silver, right? Now, probably one of the best cards for Illusionist. Yeah, it's gonna jump in price, easy. So once per turn, when you attack with an illusionist or a weapon, put a +1 counter on it. So this, in essence, means that regardless of what aura you have, will automatically go again, because it generates the counter whenever you attack, not when it hits, not after chain link resolves, but right at the initial step. So with Shimmers of Silver, basically anything on board will have go again, and you just have to get over that 1 cost, which is again more than fine, because all mystics love their blues. Now Spectre is obviously an issue, protecting this, but get some use out of it. Use Enigma's own ability, use anything, within the set, and you've got an all-around happy deck right from the get-go without any real fine-tuning. So let's crack into the card and see what we can actually, picture, right, going forward. So truth be told, Cloaked, instant, pay 1, put an aura from your graveyard on the bottom of your deck. So you can play up to 4 Shimmers in Classic Constructed. Wonderful. Heirloom of Rabbit Hide, right? Again, the 1 life. I find it will probably be a bit easier in Enigma with Ward. And the other thing to remember with Cloaked is these won't actually pop until you do flip them. So they can either be defense when you want it or powerful effects when you want, which is fantastic. Because that's probably one of the big downsides of all the current Ward equipment for Illusionist is you can't really, control when it pops, and you might lose the effect. So unless you have a hefty board and you can then divert all the damage there, or you're sacrificing blocks, you can't really save equipment for its impactful moments. So these, because of the cloaked mechanic, are definitely going to be fun. So if you have exactly 1, you may turn it face up, and it's just ward 4, so a hefty amount of defense. Gloves, pay 1, put a +1 counter on an aura you control with ward. Again, just an enabler for the weapon. Same with, again, Enigma's makes basic ability. And then we also have the first spectral shield. Each turn costs 1 less, right? So that with the weapon means you get 1 free swing, gets a counter, and then you go from there. Skywalker Good. Keikoi. Hopefully I'm not butchering that. Instant, destroy this, prevent the next 1 damage. That is currently the weakest we've seen, I'm going to say. Yeah, Stilettos are fantastic. I'm not going to spoil Zen just yet. Then we have the Battlefield Bastion cards, interestingly. And you'll also notice there is no Phantasm, right? It's just Ward, so you don't have to worry about Poppers. Poppers is an interesting mechanic, right? I feel like it gates a lot of development, though, because they have to conscientiously think, well, how is this class going to deal with it, right? Do they have to, A, take cards just for popping? Then they also printed, ways around popping. It's a fun mechanic, don't get me wrong, and, a somewhat okay balancing for the amount of damage that, normal Illusionist Phantasm attacks have. But the longevity, mechanics like Ward, Spectre, right, that are easily disruptible, still pay into the whole illusionist thing. You know, once you attack it, once you know it's fake, it goes away. A bit better in from my perspective. So, Spectral Manifestation. Create a Spectral Shield token, then if you control no other illusionist auras, put 3+1 counters on it. So, again, it either furthers the game plan or gives you a nice big head start. The 2 cost is a bit worrisome, right, with only 2 block. So this is probably getting cut overall, but nonetheless, it's a nice opening card. A Shelter, Ward X, where X is 4 if you've pitched a blue card this turn, otherwise 1. So either you're getting a 4 attack weapon or a 1 attack weapon. This is easy to activate again, right? There's so many ways, so many incentives to run blues. So yeah, a 4 weapon, right? You swing, you get your counter if you have Shimmers of Silver, you get go again. Even if it's the last thing you do and the next turn has go again, right? And you're just building so much defense through the ward. Waxing Spectre, if you pitch a blue card, enters with a +1 counter, or enters with go again, ward 3, right? So much defense. So these are all just wonderfully high value cards. Again, take your blues, all the cost is covered, you're getting resources to then also attack. Yeah, I think overall Illusionist is gearing up to probably be the most easy to run deck that doesn't require too much thought, but then the ceiling for it, right, once you master it, is going to be huge. All 3, from what I've seen, right, and again, I haven't really delved into Zen just yet, are definitely going to be strong decks right out of the gate. Waning Vengeance. When this leaves the arena, if you've pitched a blue card this turn, create a Spectral Shield token. So this could be a bit difficult, but a 1 for a ward 3 or a 1 for a 3 attack aura is good enough, right? And then if you can get that benefit, and that way you have a Spectral Shield for your turn, it's definitely going to be, again, skillful to manage the ward, right? What gets popped, what goes away, what you're trying to build counters on, what you're trying to protect. But again, once you master it, it's going to be so interesting, so fun. Right, then we have it in yellow, so the ward goes down to the base attack, right, the usual scaling. Spillover, again, just one of the generic blues. If you played a blue, get some extra. Big Blue Sky, right? This gets +1 for each blue you've pitched this turn. So that could have some pretty juicy effects, because I believe I've read it somewhere, but there is an instant proc for Illusionist cards, right? We'll get to it when we get to it. Ancestral Etching, put a 1 counter on target aura with ward you control. If you control Spectral Shield, you may play this as though it were instant. There we go. Right, there's one of the things that allow you to play it, get benefit, and then still retain the block. Right, so this in conjunction with 1 card pitched makes Big Blue Sky just a little bit better. If you can get 2 things off, right, you've got, what, 6 resources to play with, and Big Blue Sky blocking for 4 plus a bunch of ward that you've generated. I think that's going to be a fairly good defense turn. I mean, it would be really interesting, just a completely reactive style of deck where you really just doing everything on your opponent's turn. We won't really get to that point, I don't think, right? But this is a good start or foray into it. Essence of Ancestry, Mind. When this leaves the arena, if you control no illusionist auras, the next time it would be dealt damage by a blue source this turn. Prevent it. It's very niche, I'm going to say, right? It's in the rare slot too. Usually the commons are the inset counters, because obviously in limited, you're going to find a bunch of them. So I don't know how much play this is going to get. First Tenants, wonderful card. Next blue attack this turn gets when this attacks, draw a card. When you're swinging with a lot of auras. Now I'm curious, I assume they keep their color, right? Or like still count as their color. So swinging with, have we seen any? No, because they're going to be below. So swinging with this, single-minded determination should trigger this, which makes it fantastic. And again, you know, do they have wide blue under it? This they don't. But there are, again, those buff cards. So, you know, blues. It's just all about blues, and steer away. There's some better stuff to run, I think. So single-minded determination, when this enters the arena, if you control no other illusionist, put a 1 counter on it. Otherwise, it's a 2 for 2 with a 3 block. Right? Again, common's gonna be replaced across the board. I don't think we've seen anything super outstanding from the commons. Maybe the waning, right? Anything? A Shelter, kinda. If the cost was a little bit less. Yeah, so I don't think we've seen anything outstanding. But again, in terms of the deck, they're all still wonderful. When this enters, if you control no other, create a Spectral Shield. When this leaves the arena, if you control no illusionist, you may play your next aura with 0 cost as though it were instant. If you do, it enters the arena with +1. There we go. This is a value common, right? So it's 0 cost, ward 1 gets popped. You then play something for hand, and you get that counter for your next turn. and you can play it obviously at the end step of your opponent's turn, so that you can definitely have something to swing with that has go again, right? So that is definitely a powerful common. Moon Chakra, next time you'd be damaged this turn, prevent 1 if you transcend it, instead prevent 3, and all the transcend cards you can still play in your opponent's turn, right? Talking of transcend, you get a drop in the ocean, a minus, and you also get gain 1 life. Oh, no, you get 4. You get 4 in Enigma. Preserve Tradition, put target action cards from your graveyard to the bottom of your deck. So actually, Shimmers of Silver, right? You got Preserve Tradition. You can run 3 copies. No, it was equipment. It was equipment, right? You can run the equipment, so that's 2. So you can play it 5 times so far, right? You're going to want it always on board. The question is, what do you do to get it off the bottom of your deck, right? Rising Sun, draw a card and put a card from your hand on the bottom. And then, of course, just the inner chi. So altogether, yeah, Enigma's going to be strong, right? Let's see what LSS have to say about it. So Enigma is a mystic illusionist who wards off danger with spectral auras. She carries century-old tales and traditions within her ancestral tapestry, an ever-changing mystery like the waxing and waning of the moon. Enigma is a very complex deck that will likely take some time to learn and understand. She creates auras which, when played, stay in the arena until something makes them leave. All of Enigma's auras have the keyword ward, which means that when you would take damage, instead you destroy the aura and prevent an amount equal to the ward listed on the card. So I don't think it's actually that complex to play, right? Get them on board, swing with them. The complexity comes from knowing when to, not use something so it doesn't get popped, or choosing what gets popped first. But otherwise, your game plan is super simple, right? You just put whatever you can in the board, you swing, you negate damage, and you rinse and repeat, right? Again, it's not like new, where you're trying to hit certain cards, you're trying to think and work out, right? If I pop off and play my opponent's graveyard with my instant free mechanic from my ability, right? What can I do with that? Whereas Enigma, even the ability is super straightforward. You pay 3, you create a Spectral Shield token with a counter. Thanks to the weapon, it has go again. Thanks to the first ability, if it's the first swing, it's free, right? And you're just continuing to do damage. You're almost trying to protect the one you're buffing. You're just trying to build, either a massive board or a massive single aura. So I don't think it is that complex. But again, it has that high skill ceiling that once it's mastered is going to be super interesting. The signature weapon, right? Base damage each aura deals is equal to its ward plus any plus counter that's been placed on it. Now this is probably the illusion of illusionist, right? Because obviously you see a ward 4, you're like, awesome, I can use this to, swing for a huge amount of damage. But I can also sack this, right, to prevent all the damage and not pop something else. So in that sense, I'd be, trying to build up the ones, the stuff that's probably a lot easier to protect, and then keeping the big ward for, again, soaking the damage and protecting those little things. So when you play a card that places +1 counter on an aura, right, the aura gets the attack bonus, and Cosmos will then give it go again, so you can then attack with something else. +1 counters do not change the amount of damage prevented by ward. Yeah, right, it says damage on the weapon. For example, you could pitch a blue to play Waxing Spectre. It would gain +1. I'm pretty sure this is the example we did, no? Yeah, and then it gets the go again. So when your opponent attacks you back, if you don't defend, Waxing Spectre will be destroyed and prevent 3 damage. Many of Enigma's cards create Spectral Shields. These are token auras that have ward 1. When they destroyed, they go back to your token pile. So the graveyard, Enigma's hero ability allows her first Spectral Shield each turn to attack for free. So it's always worth trying to keep one floating around to, again, swing with. Time to transcend, right? So again, transcend. Enigma's is not a payoff. It is use it whenever possible. So if you have a transcend card, you play it. Maybe, again, you're waiting till the end of your opponent's turn so you have the Spectral Shield to swing with. But altogether, it's just a big fat button to mash in terms of RPGs, right? So there we go. At the end of each turn, remember to de-chi your deck, flipping your inner chi cards back to the regular Mystic instant face. The end of each game. Sorry, I was thrown for a loop there. I thought it was turn. I was like, huh? Did they change the ruling or finally say it doesn't stay? But yeah, end again. Arms of the teeth, right? What do they have to say about equipment? All of Enigma's equipment are cloaked, which means they begin face down. Equipment don't do anything until you flip them face up, which again, by far the most impactful in Enigma because it prevents the ward popping. So Rabbit Eye can be flipped at the start of your turn when you have 1 life, preventing up to 4 damage at the start of your turn. So it doesn't even come to play when you're on that 1 life. Again, the threshold doesn't really sit well with me, right? I'm going to be very curious to see how consistent this actually is to get these benefits, or if it is really worth said benefit. Again, finding a chi card with new goes a lot further than just Ward 4, right? Because it's not even an aura, so it's just protecting your auras, right? But you're already at 1 life, so yeah. We'll see. Using equipment at the right moment is crucial, whether it's in response to an attack reaction preventing small attacks by pitching a card that can't defend, or even placing a +1 counter on attacking auras to give it that go again. How to win with Enigma. Building a massive army of auras to overwhelm the opponent is a surefire way to win, but it's incredibly difficult to do so when you're facing multiple small attacks each turn that threaten to wipe away everything you've built. Right, but if you have the right sort of things, again, ton of spectral shields, and there are ways to generate spectral shields, right, in plethora, as we've, seen with OG Prism, spacing for a second. Good way to get into the flow of playing Enigma is with the waxing and waning method. Play an aura on your own turn, attack with it, let it die to your opponent's turn, then play a new one on your next turn. Soon you'll start to find windows where it makes sense to play cards on your opponent's turn in order to keep your more valuable auras around. Yeah, again, to me, it's somewhat straightforward. Maybe it's more so because it's a different playstyle to everything else in Flesh and Blood. Again, super reactive, right? That it is something to learn. But I think for anyone who's been playing Illusionist, this isn't anything super new, right? Because again, there's tons of auras that are hugely beneficial that you want generated so your opponent can't disrupt them. But for everyone else, again, if you're playing against Enigma, it's the same sort of old story. Clear the board, then focus on face. When the gap between life totals is high enough, you can comfortably take damage to play a huge turn in order to force your opponent to start defending. Once the opponent is defending, it'll be extremely difficult for them to remove your auras. Now you can start pitching your inner cheese over and over, building up enough spectral shield attacks to close out the game. It was once per turn. Yeah, it's once per turn, right? It was Zen, and no, Zen was also once per turn. And Nu's the only one you can use repeatedly, right? So you can't get a huge board state with a ton of chi, right? So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, again, 1 on your turn, 1 end of your opponent's turn, 1 start your turn, 3 to swing with. That kind of sounds alright. Anything else? No, onto the videos. So what I'm curious about is I wanna basically look at everything that has ward, right? To actually see what we're playing with. Because again, ward's been around for a while, so there's definitely going to be some other stuff, and it's also somewhat across the board. So with the Ash generation, I'm curious what you could do, right? It's sad that Dromai's out, and obviously OG Prism's out, but maybe something will spring up with new Prism. But yeah, so we've got like Phantom Tideball. Whenever a illusion card you control is destroyed, put a counter on it. Has Phantasm, so that's the only issue. You can swing with it, it's now poppable. But it's also blue, which then feeds into some of the other synergy. Has Ward 1, so it's usable, right? Anything else that's not new? Ward 1, enters the arena, you may banish target aura token or aura permanent you control with 3 or less. Controlled by your opponent until Tranquil Passing leaves. So deck tech for the mirror match. Anything else? I guess there's not actually as much as what I'm thinking. But there is definitely a fair amount of token generation from memory. That's interesting. The mini force field. It has ward. Right, Blessing of Spirit. So create 3 and then ward 1. Start your turn, destroy it, create 3. And I'm guessing it's 2 and 1. Yeah, but again, stuff like this to try and flood the board. And then you need something with counters. Again, play defensive until Shimmer of Silver. I mean, Shimmer of Silver is just going to be such a crucial, impactful card. Once per turn, when Celestial Kimono or non-token permanent you control with ward is destroyed, gain 1 resource. So that will also become a bit synergistic. I mean, that with Blessing of Spirits is kind of good payoff, right? They get destroyed, you get 3 spectral shields. You can already swing with 1 thanks to Enigma's basic ability, and then thanks to Celestial Kimono you can swing with the other. Interesting, right? Question is, what gimmicky stuff could we pull out? Because again, I love Phantasmal Symbiosis. I love, God, what's the other one? Fractal Replication, right? But I don't think there's that many attacks. So when you play or defend, it gains the base abilities of all illusion attack action cards. Yeah, so that already discounts auras. So I don't think it's time to shine, right? But I think it actually got speculation because of the character more than anything. But one day this will be a busted card. Other than that, I guess we do Illusionist and then just counter generation. So if we go class, illusionist, and I will just type in counter, and we'll see what puts counters into play. Right, that's new. So again, Shimmer Silver, absolutely busted one. Other than that, Ghostly Touch. What does this do? Whenever an illusionist attack you control is destroyed by Phantasm, put a haunt token. No, so that's not going to do it, and it's... Well, anyway, it's arms. Base and life equal to the number of haunt counters on it. Let's go again. Maybe? But I think, obviously, the new arms is definitely better. Uphold tradition, just for the 1 counter. So actually, there isn't as much. It is basically just the Shimmers of Silver, right? And I guess Tide more to a lesser extent. But yeah, this just flows so well into it, right? Buy them. Buy them now. I mean, I'm sure by when this comes out, it's already risen. So, oh well. But yeah, they're looking fantastic. They've knocked it out of the park with the weapons. Curious to see what, Zen's staff is, how it affects Crouching Tiger. But we'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.